father's love is the anchor of the soul, steady and strong when storms take their toll. To a child, a father is a hero, a shield, a guiding star in the darkest night. Zachary and Amon trusted that anchor. They believed their father was the hand that would lift them through every storm. They believed in him with the kind of unshakable faith only a child can know. But what happens when that anchor becomes the storm itself? When the protector becomes the destroyer? When the very person a child looks up to with awe and trust becomes the source of their ultimate peril? This is the story of Sian Blake and of her two young sons, Zachary and Amon, a story of love, betrayal, innocence lost, and lives extinguished far too soon. It is a tale that will haunt, educate, and remind us all of the fragility of the world we think is safe. Sian Samantha Blake was born on September 14, 1972 in Walthamstow, London, the youngest of three children. Her early life was marked by ordinary challenges. The death of her father when she was only 18 left a deep mark on her, but it also cultivated in her a strength and resilience that would define her life. Even in youth, Sian carried a spark of creativity and determination, a hunger to leave her mark on the world. She was inquisitive, empathetic, and fiercely independent, qualities that would later guide her through the highs and lows of her life. This spark found its outlet in acting. She trained at the Guildford School of Acting, mastering the art of performance and storytelling. By the mid-1990s, she had landed the role of Frankie Pierre in the BBC soap opera EastEnders. Though her screen time was brief, her portrayal resonated, earning her recognition and admiration. To her peers, Sian was not only talented but professional, warm, and deeply passionate about her craft. Acting was not just a career, it was her way of connecting with the world, of expressing emotions and experiences that transcended words. Her performances left a subtle yet lasting impression, revealing her ability to touch hearts even in fleeting moments on screen. Beyond the television set, Sian's life was rich with love, purpose, and quiet determination. She was more than an actress. She was a teacher, a guide, and a woman whose heart was committed to others. After leaving the world of acting, Sian trained as a sign language teacher and interpreter, devoting herself to empowering those who struggled to communicate in a hearing world. She worked tirelessly to bridge gaps, to help others find their voices, and to make a meaningful impact through patience, care, and empathy. Her dedication extended beyond professional duties. Friends and colleagues remember her as someone who listened deeply, offered support without hesitation, and approached life with a rare blend of intelligence and compassion. Then came love, and with it, a new chapter of her life. She became a mother, giving birth to Zachary in 2007 and Amon in 2011. These children brought a light into her life that nothing else could. The house echoed with laughter, tiny footsteps, and the small but profound joys of motherhood. The first word, the first laugh, the first steps. In her children's eyes, Sian found purpose, joy, and an unshakable sense of hope. She was not just raising children, she was nurturing dreams, cultivating curiosity, and teaching them about kindness, courage, and love. Her life, though simple on the surface, was a tapestry woven with talent, care, and unwavering devotion. A life that illuminated the world around her and left a legacy of warmth and inspiration. Love is meant to be a sanctuary, a space where trust, warmth, and safety intertwine. But sometimes, love can hide shadows, quietly twisting into control, fear, and dominance. For Sian Blake, a woman who had devoted her life to nurturing others, this shadow would come from someone she had trusted most, her partner, Arthur Simpson-Kent. In the early years of their relationship, there was hope and promise. Arthur appeared to be a devoted partner, someone who shared in Sian's dreams, her laughter, and the joy of raising their children. Together, they welcomed Zachary in 2007 and Amon in 2011. For a time, it seemed as though life had given Sian exactly what she had longed for, a family filled with love and light. Yet beneath the surface, tensions quietly grew. Arthur's controlling tendencies, which might have been overlooked at first, began to create cracks in the family's fragile harmony. In 2014, Sian's life changed irrevocably with a diagnosis of motor neurone disease, a progressive and terminal illness that slowly stole her physical abilities. This diagnosis cast a long shadow over her family, testing her resilience and spirit. While she faced her illness with quiet courage and determination, Arthur reportedly became increasingly possessive and controlling. The independence Sian sought, time spent with her mother, moments to care for herself and nurture her children, was met with resistance. What should have been a partnership built on support and understanding turned into an environment filled with tension, unspoken fears, and quiet despair. Friends and family began to notice the subtle changes in Sian's demeanor. There were moments of withdrawal, glimpses of anxiety, and fleeting hints that life at home was not as safe or nurturing as it appeared. Despite her illness and the pressures it brought, Sian continued to provide love, warmth, and stability for her children, shielding them as best she could. Yet the quiet storm brewing in the household was something she could not control, something that would ultimately escalate into the unimaginable tragedy that would shake the world. In the shadows of love, control had taken root. And in the heart of that home, the lives of a devoted mother and her children were quietly placed in peril, awaiting a night that would change everything forever. December 13th, 2015, began like any other day in Erith. Children's laughter floated through the crisp winter air, mingling with the faint hum of morning traffic. Neighbors exchanged greetings over fences, the world moving in its familiar rhythm. The streets were calm, almost ordinary, yet inside one quiet home, a darkness was stirring, invisible but inexorably closing in. That evening, Sian Blake, the devoted mother and loving daughter, and her two young sons, Zachary and Amon, simply disappeared. At first, those who knew them assumed it was temporary. Perhaps Sian had taken the children to her mother's house, seeking a moment of reprieve or a brief family visit. Perhaps they were simply stepping out for an errand. But as hours passed without word, unease began to settle in like a shadow over hearts that had once known comfort. Then came the messages. Sent from Sian's phone, they assured friends and family that she was taking time off to rest, that everything was fine, that there was no need for alarm. On the surface, they seemed calm, polite, even mundane. But beneath those carefully chosen words was deception, crafted by the very man who would orchestrate the horror that would follow. Arthur Simpson-Kent was masking the truth, weaving a web to hide the unthinkable from the world. As hours bled into days, the tension in the community escalated. Calls went unanswered. Messages received no reply. Friends and family began to notice small signs. Sian's absence from routines she never missed. The silence where laughter and voices once rang. The emptiness of beds that had always held warmth. Anxiety grew into dread. Neighbors whispered, hoping their fears were unfounded. But deep down, many already sensed that something terrible had occurred. Each passing day stretched longer, amplifying the pain of uncertainty. The once ordinary neighborhood, with its familiar streets and friendly faces, felt suddenly alien, its calm replaced by a growing tension, a quiet fear that clung to every corner. The community, which had previously observed life from a distance, now felt the sharp edge of helplessness. The innocence of winter mornings was gone, replaced by a gnawing suspicion that the safety they had taken for granted had been shattered. Little did anyone know, within the walls of that home, the lives of Sian, Zachary, and Amon had already been tragically altered. The vanishing was not an accident, not a simple disappearance. It was the first act of a horror that would shock a nation and leave scars that would never fully heal. January 7th, 2016, a day that would forever scar the hearts of those who knew Sian Blake, and a day that would send tremors of disbelief across the United Kingdom. In the quiet garden of her Erith home, police made a discovery so shocking, so incomprehensible, that it seemed almost unreal. Buried beneath the soil, hidden from view but impossible to ignore, were the bodies of Sian, Zachary, and Amon. The brutality of the crime was immediately apparent. Each life had been violently taken, the evidence of blunt force trauma and stab wounds, a grim testament to the deliberate cruelty inflicted upon them. The innocence of Zachary, only 8 years old, and Amon, a tender 4, was brutally stolen. The warmth, love, and care of their mother, Sian, extinguished in a single night of horror.
Police have confirmed that earlier today 3 bodies were found at the family home of Sian Blake. They have yet to be formally identified. Her family have been told, and I spoke to the lead detective on the case who said that their thoughts are with the family at this very difficult time. She went missing just a few weeks before Christmas. She and her 2 children had been visiting family in East London. A few days after she was reported missing, police went to the family home in Erith and spoke to her partner, Arthur Simpson Simpson-Kent. He then since disappeared and is still missing. They're still very keen to speak to him. She was an actress in the 1990s in the hit soap EastEnders. She also appeared in The Bill, but she retired from acting after developing motor neurone disease. She then retrained as a sign language interpreter, and police are very keen to speak to anyone who may have any information on what has happened.
The physical evidence could not capture the emotional devastation, the emptiness left in the hearts of friends, family, and a nation that had followed her life with admiration and affection. The news spread like wildfire, and the collective grief was overwhelming. How could something so monstrous occur in a quiet, ordinary neighborhood? How could a family that seemed loving and devoted fall victim to such savagery? And the question that haunted everyone the most, how could a child's most sacred trust, the trust in their father, be shattered in the most unimaginable, horrifying way? Neighbors, friends, and even strangers struggled to reconcile the image of a caring mother and her children with the violent reality that had befallen them. The community, once peaceful and routine, now felt like a place shadowed by suspicion and sorrow. Every home, every family felt the weight of vulnerability, as if the walls of safety themselves had been torn down. In that garden, amidst the cold earth and quiet winter air, a family's laughter, love, and dreams were forever silenced. What was meant to be a sanctuary, a place of nurturing and growth, had become a grave. And as investigators began to piece together the fragments of that night, the world would come to know the depth of betrayal, the darkness of human cruelty, and the tragic cost of trust placed in the wrong hands. The discovery was more than a revelation. It was a stark, heart-wrenching awakening to the reality that horror can reside where we least expect it, that danger can hide behind familiar faces, and that the lives we hold most dear can be snatched away in the blink of an eye. As investigators pieced together the horrific crime, all evidence pointed to one man, Arthur Simpson-Kent, Sian's partner and the father of her two young children. The realization was chilling. The person entrusted with love, care, and protection, the one who was meant to be the anchor in their lives, was now the prime suspect in a tragedy so brutal it defied comprehension. By the time authorities closed in, Arthur had vanished. He had fled across continents, leaving behind the shattered remnants of a family he had once promised to protect. The trail led to Ghana, thousands of miles away from the quiet streets of Erith, but international law enforcement agencies moved swiftly, coordinating across borders, determined to bring him to justice. Every day he remained free, the anguish for Sian's family and the wider public deepened. The clock was ticking. Even in a foreign land, Arthur could not escape the reach of justice. A photograph in a British newspaper, widely circulated, became the key to his capture. A local bar owner, recognizing him, reported his presence to authorities. That single act, a fleeting moment of recognition, set into motion a chain of events that would close the net around him. It was a reminder that, even across oceans, truth and accountability have a way of catching up with those who try to flee from their crimes. The arrest was swift. Arthur Simpson-Kent was taken into custody, his flight ended, his freedom stripped away. But the impact of his actions had already left an indelible mark on the lives of Sian's family, on a grieving community, and on a nation horrified by the betrayal of trust and the magnitude of the crime. As investigators prepared for extradition, the world watched with a mixture of relief and apprehension. Relief that the man responsible could no longer hide, but apprehension as the forthcoming trial promised to reveal the darkest truths of that fateful December night. The hunt was over, but the questions remained. Why, how, and how could someone take the lives of those he claimed to love? Justice had begun its path, but the scars of the Blake family's loss would echo long after Arthur was behind bars, serving as a haunting reminder that evil can sometimes lurk in the very hearts we trust most. The courtroom at the Old Bailey was tense, silent but heavy with anticipation. For months, the nation had followed the story of Sian Blake and her two young sons, Zachary and Amon, hearts aching at the unimaginable horror that had destroyed their lives. Now, all eyes were on Arthur Simpson-Kent, the man accused of shattering a family and betraying the most sacred trust of parenthood. As the trial unfolded, the full depth of his betrayal came to light. Evidence painted a chilling portrait. meticulous planning, deliberate violence, and cold, calculated actions that led to the deaths of a mother and her two innocent children. Arthur's attempts to frame the murders as a tragic suicide pact, a desperate and twisted explanation, crumbled under the weight of forensic evidence, witness testimony, and the careful reconstruction of events. It became undeniable that these murders were not accidents, not a product of fleeting rage, but intentional acts of horrifying cruelty. On June 10, 2016, Arthur Simpson-Kent entered a guilty plea. His words echoed in the courtroom, heavy with the weight of finality, yet offering no solace to those mourning the lives he had destroyed. The prosecution's case had been clear, precise, and unwavering. A family's love and trust had been extinguished at the hands of the very person sworn to protect them. The sentencing on October 5, 2016, brought a measure of resolution, though no punishment could ever restore the lives lost. Arthur Simpson-Kent was given a whole life order, ensuring he would never again walk free among the living. The judge described the acts as truly horrific, a phrase that felt both clinical and inadequate, unable to fully capture the magnitude of the cruelty inflicted upon Sian, Zachary, and Amon. Every word spoken in that courtroom was heavy with grief, rage, and sorrow, reflecting the collective heartbreak of a nation struggling to comprehend the unimaginable. The trial did more than deliver justice. It exposed the darkness that can hide behind the most familiar faces, the betrayal that can exist within homes that appear ordinary, and the fragility of the innocence we so often take for granted. For friends, family, and the wider public, the courtroom proceedings were both a revelation and a reckoning, forcing society to confront the horrors of domestic abuse, control, and the devastating consequences of misplaced trust. Even after the gavel fell and Arthur was led away, the echoes of that trial lingered. It was a stark reminder that, while justice may be served in the courts of law, the wounds left behind, in hearts, in memories, in communities, remain forever. The murder of Sian Blake and her children left a wound that reached far beyond their family home. It pierced the hearts of friends, neighbors, and an entire community that had once seen them as ordinary, loving, and devoted. Grishay settled heavily over Erith, a quiet suburb that now felt haunted by the unimaginable events that had unfolded behind its closed doors. Families walked a little more cautiously, parents held their children a little tighter, and neighbors whispered in disbelief, searching for answers that could never fully make sense of such cruelty. Friends of Sian struggled to reconcile the memory of the warm, kind, and devoted mother they knew with the horror of her final moments. Neighbors recalled her laughter, her care for her children, and the gentle guidance she had offered the small community. Each memory became a bittersweet echo of what had been lost. Zachary and Amon, once vibrant and full of innocent energy, were mourned as more than children. They became symbols of innocence destroyed, of joy stolen far too soon. The media coverage of the case was relentless, bringing the tragedy into the homes of millions and sparking a national conversation about domestic violence, coercive control, and the silent threats that can lurk within seemingly ordinary households. Experts weighed in on warning signs that were often overlooked, on the subtle manipulations that can escalate into catastrophic outcomes, and on the urgent need for society to recognize and intervene before tragedy strikes. Sian's story transcended the news headlines. It became a symbol, a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the depth of human betrayal. Her life and the lives of her children underscored the urgent necessity of vigilance, compassion, and proactive support for those living under controlling or abusive conditions. Society was forced to confront uncomfortable truths, that danger can reside in the very hands we trust, that love can sometimes be twisted into harm, and that silence can be fatal. In the wake of the murders, memorials, vigils, and tributes sought to honor Sian, Zachary, and Amon. Flowers, photographs, and heartfelt messages adorned the spaces where they had once lived, a small but poignant testament to lives that touched so many in so little time. While the pain of their loss could never be undone, the story of Sian Blake and her children endures, a call to awareness, a plea for protection, and a legacy that challenges the world to recognize the hidden dangers that may lurk behind closed doors. Even today, the echo of their lives and the shadow of their loss serve as a haunting reminder. Love, trust, and family are precious, but they can be vulnerable. and sometimes even those closest to us can become the greatest threat of all. Sian Blake, Zachary, and Amon were taken far too soon, their lives extinguished in a darkness that should never have touched them. The heartbreak of their story reaches into the hearts of all who hear it, leaving an ache that lingers long after the details fade from headlines. Yet, even amid the tragedy, their story carries a vital message, one of remembrance, reflection, and vigilance. It asks us to examine the fragile threads of trust and love, to question what it means to truly protect those who depend on us. Children see their parents as heroes, as anchors in a world that can often feel overwhelming and unpredictable. But sometimes, those anchors can conceal danger, and those heroes can wear masks of menace. Sian's life and the lives of her children remind us that innocence can be betrayed in the most intimate of spaces, and that vigilance, empathy, and awareness are essential in safeguarding those we cherish. As we reflect on Sian, Zachary, and Amon, we are called not only to mourn, but to honor. To honor them means to understand the hidden signs of coercion and control, to recognize the quiet struggles that can fester behind closed doors, and to act when those we love may be in danger. It is a reminder that tragedy is not always obvious until it is too late, and that lives can be saved when society, families, and communities remain alert and compassionate. Though their time was brief, the impact of their story ripples far beyond the walls of their home. Sian's dedication as a mother, her warmth as a teacher, and the laughter and curiosity of her children live on in the memories of all who knew them, and in the awareness their loss has inspired. Their story is a call to action, a plea to hold those we love close while remaining vigilant, and a testament to the enduring power of remembrance. In the end, Sian Blake, Zachary, and Amon remind us of the preciousness of life and the profound responsibility we bear to protect and nurture it. Though they are gone, their legacy endures, not only in memory, but in the lessons their lives and deaths have imparted. And it is through this remembrance, through this unwavering commitment to honor them, that they continue to teach us about love, trust, vigilance, and the fragile beauty of life itself.